Hope sat in the white hospital room, looking at the ceiling. The beeping sound of the machine next to her bed matched her heartbeat. At just 35, she wasn't ready to die. The doctors had told her she had only 3 months left because of the cancer in her body. Her little girl, Joy, who was only 16, had put their favorite family photo on the small table next to the bed. In the picture, Joy was smiling widely, showing off her braces from last year. Dr. Kind walked into the room. Hope noticed something was different about him today. Usually he was calm and smiled a lot, but today his hands were shaking as he held a brown folder. He kept fixing his glasses, something he did when he was nervous. "Hope," he said softly, pulling a chair closer to her bed. "We found a new way to treat your cancer. It's different from anything we've tried before." He stopped talking for a moment, like he wasn't sure how to continue. "It works really well. 9 out of 10 people who try it get better completely." Hope felt her heart beat faster. After weeks of bad news and crying herself to sleep while Joy slept in the chair next to her, finally there was something good to hear. But Dr. Kind's worried face told her there was more to the story. "What's wrong with it?" she asked. Dr. Kind opened the brown folder slowly. "This treatment, it moves the cancer from you to someone else. Someone you love very much. Like family. We don't know exactly how it works, but it's like magic. The cancer jumps from one person to another." Hope's mind went blank. "Move the cancer, you mean?" "Yes. To save your life, someone you love would have to take your cancer," he explained, showing her pictures of other patients' results. "The sick person gets completely better, but the person who loves them gets the same cancer just as bad." Hope looked at Joy's photo again, her sweet daughter who got all A's in school and wanted to become a doctor herself. Joy, who spent every day after school sitting with her mom in the hospital, telling her funny stories about her day. Then Hope thought about her sister Faith, who had helped raise Joy since Hope's husband died. Faith cooked them meals and drove Hope to all her hospital visits. Faith had 2 young kids of her own who needed their mother. Hope felt like she couldn't breathe as she thought about her choices. There was also her mother Grace, who was 65 but still took care of everyone, and her best friend Lucky, who had been with her through everything since they were kids. Thinking about giving any of them her cancer made her feel sick with guilt. "How long do I have to choose?" Hope asked quietly. 2 weeks, Dr. Kind answered. "But there's something else you should know. The hospital can't make you tell the person you choose. Some people don't tell their loved ones about the cancer moving. They just act like they got better on their own." Hope could see how much this bothered Dr. Kind. The room started to spin a little. She could save herself, but someone else would have to suffer. And the fact that she could do this without telling them felt wrong. But a tiny voice in her head whispered, "Wouldn't it be easier if they didn't know? If they just thought it was bad luck?" Just then the door opened and Joy came in, carrying her school bags. "Mom, I brought your favorite chicken soup." Her smile was so bright it made Hope's dark thoughts go away for a moment. Dr. Kind picked up his papers and left quietly. "Think about what I told you, Hope. We'll talk tomorrow." He smiled at Joy as he walked out, leaving Hope alone with her daughter and the biggest secret she'd ever kept. As Joy sat in her usual chair and talked about school, Hope watched her carefully. She noticed things she hadn't seen before, how Joy's eyes looked tired from staying up late to study, how her clothes were a little loose because she'd been skipping meals to spend more time at the hospital. Hope realized with a shock that her illness was already hurting her daughter. Then something unexpected happened. As Joy was telling a story about her chemistry class, she started coughing. It wasn't a normal cough. It was deep and rough. Hope felt her heart stop for a second. She'd had the same kind of cough when her cancer first started. "How long have you had that cough?" Hope asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Oh, just a few days," Joy said, waving it off. "Probably just a cold. But guess what? There's this new girl in my class who—" But Hope wasn't listening anymore. Her mind was racing. What if Joy was already sick? What if the cancer could spread naturally to people who spent a lot of time with her? What if by trying to spend every possible moment with her mother, Joy had put herself in danger? And then another thought hit her. What if she chose someone to take her cancer, but it somehow spread to Joy anyway? The doctors didn't understand how it worked. What if it could jump to more than one person? As the machines kept beeping and Joy kept talking, Hope felt like she was drowning in questions and fears. She looked at Dr. Kind's card on her table, wondering if she should tell him about Joy's cough. But what if she was just being paranoid? What if telling him put ideas in his head about using Joy for the transfer? For the first time, Hope realized that having the power to choose might be worse than having no choice at all. That night, after Joy finally went home with Faith, Hope couldn't sleep. The empty hospital room felt colder than usual. She kept thinking about Joy's cough and reached for her phone. Her fingers shook as she typed "cancer spread to caregivers" into the search bar. Each article she read made her more worried. Around midnight, she heard footsteps in the hallway, different from the usual nurse rounds. Through her half-open door, she saw Dr. Kine talking to another doctor she'd never seen before. He was tall and wore a black suit instead of a white coat, which seemed strange for a hospital. "The transfer success rate is increasing," the stranger said in a low voice. "But there have been complications." Hope held her breath, straining to hear more. "What kind of complications?" Dr. Kind asked, sounding worried. "Some recipients aren't just getting the cancer. They're getting memories too. One patient in Chicago, her husband started remembering things that happened to her during childhood. It's like parts of their minds are switching places along with the disease." Hope's heart started racing. The machines next to her beeped faster, and she quickly tried to calm down before a nurse came to check on her. Memory transfer? That wasn't part of what Dr. Kind had told her. What else wasn't he saying? The next morning, Faith came early, before Joy's school time. She looked tired and nervous. "Hope, there's something I need to tell you," Faith said, sitting close to the bed. "Last night, Joy had a strange dream. She said she was playing in Grandma's old yellow house. You know, the one you lived in when you were 10. But Joy's never been there. It was torn down before she was born. She described it perfectly, though. Even the tree swing you fell from and broke your arm." Hope felt like ice water was running through her veins. Joy was remembering her memories already? But how? She hadn't even agreed to the transfer yet. Unless... Just then, Dr. Kind came in with his morning checkup. Hope watched him carefully, looking for signs that he knew more than he was telling. He seemed nervous when he checked her latest test results. "Your numbers are interesting," he said slowly. "The cancer cells seem to be decreasing on their own." Faith smiled big. "That's wonderful news." But Hope felt sick to her stomach. If her cancer was already leaving her body, where was it going? She looked at Faith's happy face and Joy's empty chair, and suddenly she knew she had to tell them everything. But before she could speak, a nurse rushed in. "Dr. Kind, they need you in room 405. It's urgent." Hope knew that was the room next door, where a young mother named Rose had been fighting the same kind of cancer. Dr. Kind hurried out, but Hope could hear the code blue alarm going off and people running. Later that day, she overheard nurses talking. Rose had gotten better suddenly, miraculously, but her 12-year-old son had collapsed at school with severe pain. Both were now in intensive care. The pieces started coming together in Hope's mind. What if the transfer wasn't something you chose? What if it happened naturally between people who loved each other deeply? What if all these experimental treatments were just the doctor's way of trying to control something they didn't understand? As the sun set, casting long shadows in her room, Hope made a decision. She had to get out of this hospital, but when she tried to get up, her legs wouldn't move. The same weird numbness she'd seen in Joy's eyes earlier that day was creeping into her own body. It felt like she was slowly falling asleep, while Joy was waking up, not just from a nap, but from a whole different life. In the hall, she heard the stranger in the black suit talking again. "It's spreading faster than we expected. We need to contain this floor before midnight." Panic filled Hope's chest as she heard doors being locked in the hallway. She pressed the nurse call button, but nothing happened. The usual beeping of machines seemed quieter, like someone had turned down the volume of the whole hospital floor. She grabbed her phone to call Faith, but there was no signal. Through her window, she could see black vans with tinted windows pulling up to the hospital's side entrance. Men in dark suits were unloading strange-looking equipment. The door opened and Joy walked in, but something was wrong. Her daughter's walk was different. She moved exactly like Hope did before she got sick. "Mom," Joy said, but her voice sounded older, tired. "I remember the yellow house. I remember falling from that swing. But those aren't my memories, are they?" Before Hope could answer, Joy grabbed her stomach and bent over in pain. At the same exact moment, Hope felt strength flowing back into her body, like water filling an empty glass. "It's happening faster with you two," said a voice from the doorway. The man in the black suit stood there watching them. "The love between a mother and child. It's the strongest bridge for the transfer. We've never seen it happen without the procedure before." Dr. Kind appeared behind him, looking ashamed. "I'm sorry, Hope. We're not really doing a treatment trial. We're studying something that's already happening naturally. People who love each other deeply. Their illnesses want to switch places, we don't know why. Stop it, Hope screamed, finding her voice. Take it back. Give me back my cancer. It doesn't work like that, the man in the black suit said. Once it starts, it can't be stopped. But there's something else you should know. It's not just happening to you and Joy. He stepped aside and Faith stumbled into the room, half carrying their mother Grace. Both looked sick. It's spreading through your whole family, Dr. Kind explained. The cancer is splitting itself, jumping from person to person. The more love there is, the faster it moves. We've never seen a case like yours before. A whole family's worth of love creating multiple bridges at once. Hope looked around the room at her loving family, all of them now sharing her pain. Grace was remembering Hope's first day of school. Faith was humming the lullaby Hope used to sing to Joy. And Joy, her beautiful Joy, was getting weaker by the minute, filled with not just Hope's cancer but all her memories too. There must be a way to stop it, Hope begged. The man in the black suit hesitated. There might be, but the price, it's higher than the cancer itself. Tell me, Hope demanded. To break the bridges of love, he said slowly. You have to break the love itself. You have to make them hate you. Real hate, deep hate, enough to overpower all the love that's letting this happen. Hope felt cold all over. She looked at her family, her mother who gave up everything to raise her sister who never left her side, her daughter who was her whole world. Could she make them hate her to save them? And even if she could, would that really save them, or would living without love be worse than dying with it? Then she noticed something odd. In the hallway mirror's reflection, she could see the man in the black suit smiling. Not a kind smile, but the smile of someone watching a plan work perfectly. And suddenly Hope wondered, was he telling the truth about breaking the love? Or was making families destroy their love the real experiment? The hospital lights flickered, and in the dark moment between light and shadow, Hope made her choice. In that moment of darkness, Hope reached for Joy's hand, and something extraordinary happened. As their fingers touched, the room filled with a soft, strange glow that seemed to come from their joined hands. Faith and Grace moved closer, drawn by the light, and when they all connected, the glow grew stronger. No, stop them! The man in the black suit shouted, but he couldn't get near them. The light created a barrier he couldn't cross. Dr. Kind stood in the doorway, watching with wide eyes. It's impossible, he whispered. The love, it's not just transferring the cancer anymore. It's fighting it. Hope felt warmth spreading through her body, different from the fever of her illness. Through their joined hands, she could feel every memory, every moment of love they'd ever shared, flowing between them like a river. Joy's first steps, Faith's wedding day, Grace's Sunday dinners, all these memories belong to all of them now. The man in the black suit was shouting into a phone. Shut down the whole floor. Release the suppressants. We're losing control of the experiment. But his words seemed to come from far away. In their circle of light, Hope saw the truth. The cancer wasn't trying to transfer between them. Love itself was trying to heal them. The disease had been an intruder, and their combined love was forcing it out. Then Joy gasped. Mom, look! She pulled up her sleeve. The bruises that had started appearing on her skin were fading. Hope felt the pain in her own body lessening, not because it was moving to someone else, but because it was disappearing completely. This is why they wanted us to break our love, Grace said, her voice stronger now. They're not studying cancer at all. They're studying love, real love, the kind that can heal. The man in the black suit pulled out something that looked like a weapon. You don't understand what you're doing. This power, it's too dangerous. Too unpredictable. We need to control it. But Faith laughed, a sound of pure joy that made the light grow even brighter. Love isn't meant to be controlled. Through the window, Hope saw other rooms in the hospital beginning to glow. In the room next door, Rose and her son were surrounded by the same light. All through the hospital, families were holding hands, sharing strength, healing each other. Suddenly, the man in black suit grabbed Dr. Kind and held the weapon to his head. Stop this now or he dies. This is bigger than you understand. Do you know what would happen if people discovered they could heal themselves? The entire medical industry would collapse. But as he spoke, Dr. Kind started glowing too. Hope saw tears running down his face as he remembered something. His own family, waiting at home, full of the same healing love. No, Dr. Kind said firmly. I won't help you stop this anymore. This is what healing should be. The black suit's weapon started to dissolve in his hands, turning to dust as the light touched it. He stared in horror as his black suit began to fade too. revealing ordinary clothes underneath. He wasn't some powerful government agent. He was just a man who had forgotten what real healing meant. But even as they celebrated their victory, Hope noticed something strange. The memories they were sharing weren't stopping at the present. They were starting to see things that hadn't happened yet. In these new shared visions, Hope saw Joy graduating from medical school, Faith opening a healing center, and Grace teaching others about the power of family love. But mixed with these beautiful scenes were flashes of something darker. Other people in black suits, bigger weapons, and hospitals being shut down. "They're coming," Joy said suddenly, her eyes wide with future sight. "More of them. Hundreds. They've been doing these experiments in hospitals all over the world. We're not the first to discover the truth, but we might be the first to survive telling it." The floor's emergency lights started flashing red. Through the hospital windows, they could see helicopters approaching. The man who had dropped his black suit disguise tried to run, but Dr. Kind blocked the door. "We need to share this with everyone," Faith said. "Not just the healing light, the truth about what they've been doing." Hope looked at her phone, still no signal. They had cut off all communication from the hospital floor. But then she noticed something odd about the light flowing between their joined hands. It was pulsing like a heartbeat, almost like a signal, Dr. Kind said, understanding in his eyes. "The love energy. It's just another kind of wave. Like radio waves, but stronger. Pure. Unhackable." Joy squeezed her mother's hand tighter. "Everyone who's glowing right now, they're all connected. If we could strengthen the connection..." Grace closed her eyes, concentrating. "I can feel them. Every family in this hospital. Every person touching someone they love. We're all part of the same light now." The helicopters were getting closer, their searchlights cutting through the night. But with each beat of the love light, more rooms in the hospital started glowing. The light was spreading faster now, jumping from building to building across the city. Hope understood what they had to do. "Everyone focus on sharing not just our memories, but the truth. Show everyone what's really happening." The man from the black suit laughed desperately. "You can't stop this. Even if you expose us, who would believe you? Who would believe love can heal cancer?" But as he spoke, his phone rang. Then Dr. Kind's phone rang. Then every phone on the floor started ringing at once. Through their connection, Hope could feel what was happening. Their shared light had turned into a wave of truth, spreading across every network, every signal, every connection between people who loved each other. Just then, Joy grabbed her chest and fell to her knees. Hope's heart stopped. Had they been wrong? Was the cancer coming back? But when Joy looked up, her eyes were glowing with pure light. "Mom," she whispered, "I see something else in the future. Something they never expected. The love energy. It's not just healing cancer. It's changing us. All of us. Making us into something new." Before Hope could ask what Joy meant by something new, the windows shattered. Men in protective suits burst into the room, carrying strange devices that looked like they were designed to capture the light. But the moment they touched the glowing barrier around Hope's family, their suits began to change color, from black to pure white. "Your gear can't protect you from love," Dr. Kind said calmly. "Nothing can." One by one, the men dropped their devices. Some started crying as the light touched them, remembering loved ones they'd left behind for this secret work. Through their shared vision, Hope saw flashes of their memories. Children waiting at home, worried spouses, parents they'd stopped calling. But Joy's transformation was still happening. Her skin had become slightly transparent, showing a network of glowing veins underneath. Faith and Grace were beginning to change too, their bodies adapting to handle the pure energy of love flowing through them. "It's not just healing anymore," Joy explained, her voice echoing with new understanding. "Love has always been trying to do this, to help us evolve, to make us strong enough to connect with each other completely. The cancer, it was never the real experiment. We were." Hope watched in amazement as her daughter floated a few inches off the ground. The light had changed her, but she was still Joy, still the same loving heart, just with abilities they'd never imagined possible. Through their connection, more truth was revealed. For centuries, a secret group had been suppressing this natural evolution. They had used fear, hatred, and disease to keep people from discovering their true potential. The cancer transfers weren't a cure. They were a way to study and control love's power. Suddenly, all the TVs in the hospital turned on by themselves. Every phone screen lit up. Joy had somehow connected to all of them at once. On every screen, people could see the truth, not just about the experiments, but about their own potential. "Look!" Faith gasped, pointing out the window. All across the city, points of light were appearing. Families, friends, lovers. Anyone with a true connection was starting to glow. The evolution wasn't just happening to them anymore, it was spreading. But then Grace noticed something worrying in their shared future sight. The ones who tried to stop this, they have one last plan. If they can't control the evolution, they'll try to. She couldn't finish the sentence, but they all saw it in their shared vision. A countdown had started. Deep underground, beneath the hospital, a device was ticking. The men in black suits hadn't just been studying love's power, they'd been trying to weaponize it. And now they were ready to release a wave of artificial energy that would corrupt the natural evolution, turning love's pure power into something dark and destructive. Joy looked at her mom with determined eyes. "We have to get to that device. But Mom, stopping it will cost something. In every future I can see where we succeed. One of us has to." Hope squeezed her daughter's hand, seeing the same futures. "Then we'll find a new future, one we can't see yet. Love's already changed the rules once today. Who says it can't change them again?" The basement keycard on Dr. Kine's belt started glowing. The love energy had changed it too, revealing hidden markings that showed the way to the underground facility. But as they moved toward the elevator, Joy suddenly doubled over. "It's starting," she said through gritted teeth. "The artificial energy, they're already powering up the device. It's trying to corrupt our connection." Hope felt it too, a strange crackling in their shared light, like static in their thoughts. The pure healing warmth was being pulled apart, twisted. All through the hospital, people's glowing auras were flickering, turning from white to a sickly purple. "We need help," Grace said. She closed her eyes, sending out a call through their love connection. Moments later, Rose and her son appeared at the door, their bodies glowing just like Joy's. Then came more families from other rooms, all changed by the evolution, all ready to help. The elevator wouldn't work, they'd cut the power, but Joy discovered she could do something new. Holding hands in a circle, she helped them all pass right through the floor, floating down through solid matter like it was water. Level by level, they descended into darkness. At the bottom, they found something none of their future visions had shown them. A massive room filled with tubes of glowing purple liquid, corrupted love energy, collected from failed experiments. And in the center, a giant machine was spinning up, getting ready to blast the corrupted energy across the whole city. But that wasn't the worst part. Inside the machine, hooked up to dozens of wires and tubes, was Lucky, Hope's best friend, who had disappeared 6 months ago. She had been the first to discover love's healing power, and they had been using her as a living battery ever since. "Hope?" Lucky's weak voice broke through the machine's noise. "I knew you'd come. I've been holding back the corruption, trying to keep the love energy pure, but I can't. I can't do it alone anymore." The device was already at 60% power. Purple lightning crackled between the tubes. They had minutes, maybe less. Joy stepped forward, her body glowing brighter than ever. "Mom, I know what we have to do. All this time we thought love was about connection, but it's also about letting go. The future I saw where one of us had to sacrifice. I was seeing it wrong. We don't have to lose each other, we just have to—" Before she could finish, Lucky screamed. The machine had reached 80% power. Purple energy started pouring into the room. Everywhere it touched, the evolution started to reverse. People's glowing skin began to fade. "Trust," Joy whispered, completing her thought. "Real love means trusting each other completely." She took her mother's hand one last time, but instead of holding tight, she simply touched it and let go. In that moment of release, their connection didn't break. It grew stronger than ever. Hope understood. All this time they'd been holding on to their love, trying to keep it between themselves. But love wasn't meant to be contained. It was meant to be set free. One by one, everyone in the room let go of their physical connections. The moment they did, their shared light exploded outward, more powerful than ever. It wasn't about holding hands anymore. It was about holding each other in their hearts. Lucky's eyes flew open, glowing pure white. "The machine! It's fighting back! It wants to twist the evolution, make people afraid to trust, afraid to let go." The device reached 90% power. Purple energy swirled around them like an angry storm. Through their shared vision, they could see the corruption spreading up through the hospital, into the city. People who had been glowing with love's power were starting to turn on each other, their fear taking over. But Joy wasn't afraid. She walked straight toward the machine, her body now blazing like a star. "Mom," she said, "remember when I was 6 and I was scared to jump into the pool? You didn't just hold my hand, you taught me to swim." Hope's heart swelled with the memory. All around the room, similar memories were awakening. Faith remembered teaching her kids to ride bikes by letting them go. Grace remembered sending Hope off to college, trusting her to find her way. Even Dr. Kind remembered his first day as a doctor, when his mentor stepped back and trusted him to save his first patient. The machine reached 95%. Lucky was screaming, the corruption trying to use her power to poison every connection in the city. But then something amazing happened. Rose's young son stepped forward. Unlike the adults, he hadn't been changed by the evolution. He was still just a child. But when he reached out toward Lucky, a different kind of light came from his hands. The pure, simple love of a child who hadn't yet learned to be afraid. "It's okay," he said simply. "You can let go too." Lucky looked at the boy, tears streaming down her face. She had been holding on so long, fighting the corruption, trying to protect everyone. She had forgotten that sometimes protecting people means trusting them to protect themselves. The machine hit 98%. Purple lightning filled the room. But as Lucky finally let go of her fear, her power joined with theirs. The corruption tried to spread, but it met something it couldn't fight. Trust freely given, love freely shared. Joy raised her hands, and everyone's light gathered around her. Not because she was holding on to it, but because she was letting it flow through her, trusting it to know where it needed to go. "Mom," she said softly, "I need you to do something harder than fighting cancer. I need you to let me try this on my own." Hope felt her heart breaking and healing at the same time. This was what love really meant. Not just caring for someone, but trusting them enough to let them care for others. The machine reached 99%. The machine reached 99.9%. In the last second before it hit 100%, Hope did the hardest thing she'd ever done. She stepped back from her daughter. The moment she did, Joy transformed completely. Her human form dissolved into pure light, spreading through the room like a sunrise. The purple corruption tried to fight it, but it couldn't touch her anymore. Joy had become what love truly was. Not a force that holds things together, but one that sets them free. "I understand now," Joy's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "The cancer, the transfers, the evolution, they were all teaching us the same thing. Love isn't about keeping people close. It's about giving them the strength to go as far as they need to." The machine started to shake. Lucky's body began to glow with the same pure light as Joy's. The corruption in the tubes turned clear, then white, then started to sparkle with rainbow colors. All the stolen love energy was transforming, becoming what it was always meant to be. Through their shared vision, they saw what was happening in the city above. Parents were letting go of their children's hands, but their connections grew stronger. Friends stopped trying to hold each other back, and their bonds deepened. Couples learned to give each other space, and their love grew more powerful. But something else was happening too. The evolution wasn't just changing their bodies anymore. It was changing time itself. Hope could see backwards and forwards at once. She saw Joy as a baby, as she was now, and as she would be. She saw all the possible futures merging into one truth. Love wasn't just about this moment. It was about all moments at once. The machine hit 100%, but instead of sending out corruption, it became a beacon of pure light. Joy had transformed its purpose, turning it from something that forced connections into something that freed them. Lucky floated free of the wires and tubes, her body healing instantly, but she didn't return to her old self. Like Joy, she had become pure energy. One by one, others in the room began to change too. Not all the same way. Each person's light was unique, special. Faith became living rainbow, able to connect different kinds of love together. Grace turned into a soft golden glow that could heal old wounds and forgotten hurts. Dr. Kind's form shifted into a gentle blue light that could find hidden love in the darkest places. But Hope remained human. Through their shared vision, she understood why. Someone needed to stay behind, to help others understand what love really meant, to teach them that sometimes loving someone means watching them become something you can't hold on to anymore. The men in black suits rushed into the room, but stopped in awe at what they saw. Their weapons fell from their hands as Joy's light touched them, showing them memories of every person they'd ever tried to control, every connection they'd tried to corrupt. "You can't experiment on love," Joy's voice echoed. "You can only become part of it." In the days that followed, the world changed in ways no one could have predicted. The secret underground facility became a sanctuary, not a place to study love, but a place to learn how to set it free. Hope remained there, teaching others what her family had learned. The hospital above was transformed too. Where once there were cancer wards, there were now rooms filled with gentle light where people learned to trust their connections. Dr. Kind worked alongside Hope, helping patients understand that healing wasn't about fighting disease. It was about letting love flow freely through their lives. Joy and the others who had transformed didn't disappear. They became something like guardian angels, visible to anyone who was ready to understand real love. Sometimes, late at night, Hope would see her daughter's light dancing outside the hospital windows, checking on new patients, helping them learn to let go of their fears. Lucky used her freedom to find others like her, people who had been trapped by those trying to control love's power. One by one, she helped them transform, building a network of light that spread hope across the world. Faith's rainbow form could often be seen at funerals and weddings, helping people understand that love doesn't end when things change. It just changes with them. And Grace's golden light became a comfort to those struggling to trust again, showing them that letting go doesn't mean losing love. The men in black suits who had tried to corrupt love's power went through their own transformation. Instead of trying to control the evolution, they became its protectors, ensuring that no one would ever again try to turn love into a weapon. But the most amazing change was in the everyday moments. Parents watching their children take their first steps alone, friends supporting each other's dreams even when they led in different directions, lovers learning that distance couldn't weaken a connection built on trust. The cancer that had started everything never returned to the hospital, not because it was being transferred or fought, but because people had learned what Hope and her family discovered, that true healing comes from letting love flow freely, trusting it to take whatever form it needs. Years later, when asked about the night everything changed, Hope would smile and show visitors the small glass jar she kept on her desk. Inside, a tiny spark of purple energy swirled, a reminder of what happens when people try to control love. Next to it stood Joy's high school graduation photo, unchanged despite everything that had happened after. Love doesn't need to be understood, Hope would tell them. It just needs to be trusted. Sometimes it looks like holding on, sometimes like letting go. Sometimes it takes the shape of a disease being healed, and sometimes, she would pause, looking out the window where lights of all colors danced in the sky. Sometimes it takes the shape of your whole world changing. And somewhere in that dance of lights, Joy's voice could still be heard, carrying the message that had changed everything. Love isn't about keeping people close. It's about giving them the strength to become what they need to be. This final section brings closure to all the story threads, while reinforcing the central theme about the true nature of love and letting go. It shows how the events changed, not just the main characters but the whole world, while keeping the focus on the emotional heart of the story, the relationship between Hope and Joy.